Right, so welcome to this webinar. So my name's Aaron, I work for the City of Mount Gambier. I'm the Environmental Sustainability Officer, so I work in all kinds of things, sustainability from active transport, local food, and also waste and recycling, so that's why we're here. I've been in the sustainability industry for about a bit over 10 years and done a lot of work in waste and recycling. Here at the council, do lots of different things, but I'm sort of one of the people that if someone has a query about waste and recycling, it'll get put through to me and I'll try and help out. If people are confused about whether they can recycle a certain item or not, I'll have a go at answering that. And if not, I'll find out the answer and get back to them. So what are we going to cover tonight? So firstly, if you do have any questions as we go along, please use the Q&A function and I'll try and answer them as best I can at the end of the webinar. And we'll leave some time for questions too. If you've got any questions about, can I recycle this? Can I recycle that? We'll have time at the end for that. I'm going to give an overview of the waste and recycling systems in Mount Gambier, how they work. Why is it important to recycle? Can you recycle, X, Y, Z, whatever it might be? Where to find out if you can recycle something or not. So there is a shortcut, and also any tricky questions you might have, I'll have a crack. So firstly, why do we need waste services? Well, it's something that we tend to take for granted. We put something in our bin, recycle bin, rubbish bin, whatever. We put it out on the curb, truck comes along and it just magically disappears, goes somewhere. But if you don't have waste services, and this is what happens. So the images here, the ones on the on the outside, are actually from Greece and Naples when they had strikes, when the garbage truck drivers went on strike, so no one was picking up their rubbish, and it doesn't just disappear then magically. So people putting it in the streets. So obviously that's a big problem. You can see the images here. That causes all sorts of problems when people are just dumping their rubbish in the street, and that's why we need waste services. And the image in the middle with the boy who's actually on a boat there, he's actually on a river. So that's one of the most polluted rivers in the world, in Indonesia, in a part where they don't have any waste services. So people have no choice but to kind of throw it into the river. And so you end up with that, which obviously causes lots of problems as well. So that's why we need waste services, and it's something we tend to take for granted, but it's a very important service. In Mount Gambier, the curbside rubbish bins that we have, and I should say tonight, if anyone doesn't live in Mount Gambier, some of this will apply. And if you live in one of the near councils, so the district council or Wattle Range Council, then everything that I say regarding to the bins there will be the same for you, because they all end up in the same spot. So the rubbish bins from Millicent, Penola, Port Mac, and Mount Gambier all go to Caroline landfill. Recycling all goes to the same place, and the organics all go to the same place. So anything that I talk about with the bins will be the same. There might be some other specialty items that are different though in different towns around the region. So with the rubbish bin, so these all end up at Caroline landfill, east of Mount Gambier. Common mistakes, people put recyclables in their rubbish bin. They put food waste and garden waste in, which I'll talk about a little bit later, batteries and small e-waste and things like that. And it all ends up as a mountain of rubbish. And I'm going to show you some images about that in a moment. And these resources are buried forever. So once they go into landfill, they never get reused or recycled. They just get buried and they stay in there forever. Over the years, we've done audits, sort of random audits of rubbish bins, recycle bins, organics bins, just to see what's in there. So we sort of just pick up random bins, dump it all in a big pile and sort it out by hand or by tongs, which is not a very pleasant job, but it gives us very good data. And that's what you can see on this pie chart here. So this is the contents of an average Mount Gambier rubbish bin. So you'll see only 21% or so is general waste, plus 9% for nappies and sanitary, so that's rubbish as well. But then you've got 35% is food waste, another 9% is garden waste, and 25% is recyclables. So that's a lot of items going into the rubbish bins that don't need to go in there and don't need to go to landfill. This is a picture of one of the cells at Caroline landfill, the one that we're filling up at the moment. And obviously you can't see a lot of details on there depending on what screen you're looking at. But basically all those colors are different kinds of plastic. So some of that's genuine, it's like rubbish bags, but a lot of the plastics on there shouldn't be going to landfill. This image here is one of the cells at Caroline landfill, and that's myself, the little person, tiny person at the bottom is me standing there. I'm almost 2 meters tall. So if you have a look at that, sort of 2 meters by 2 meters going up, that's quite a lot of rubbish that's in there, and that only took 2 years to fill up, and that's just one part of the landfill. So we're sending a lot of material to the landfill that doesn't need to be going there. If we take that audit data and we put it sort of on the side of a bin or even on the side of the landfill cell there, it just sort of visualizes how much of the waste shouldn't be going there. So you can see in the bin or see on the landfill cell there that only 30% really should be going to the landfill. So that landfill cell, that part of the landfill, should be a fraction of the size that it actually is if people put everything in the right bin, all their food waste, garden waste, and recyclables. So it should be, yeah, a third of what it is. So how does it all get there? So it all gets there basically one item at a time. So, you know, people understandably will think, oh, it's just an apple core, just a cardboard box, just a plastic bottle, doesn't really matter. When you add that up over all the different kinds of items, and then you add it up over every person, every day, every year, year after year, then it adds up to a mountain of rubbish. So just one simple thing that we can do to help reduce that is just put things in the right bin. With recycling, so these all end up at Green Triangle Recyclers, which is the same place where people take their 10-cent containers to get the deposit back. So they take those, they also take the curbside recycling in the blue bins. So that's about taking materials and then sort of shredding them down and turning them into new things. Common mistakes that people make is that the recyclables might be dirty, so have food caked on it. You don't have to wash everything like you would wash your dishes, but it shouldn't have food caked on the recyclables. Some people put them in plastic bags. And when you put the recycling in plastic bags, it will go to landfill because that image on the bottom right-hand corner is a conveyor belt, and the recyclables go along conveyor belts at a reasonable speed. They get sorted by machines and by hand, but it all happens fairly quickly. And so the employees there don't have time to open a bag and see what's in it. They just see a bag and assume it's rubbish, and so they throw it into the landfill chute. Another common mistake is leaving lids on, and I'll talk about those a bit later. Also, two materials in one item. So by that I mean, say you might have like a plastic toy that's got metal wheels on it or some sort of metal component in it, or the squeezy thing you get on some shampoo bottles that's got like a little metal spring in it, so that the head on it can't go into recycling because it's got plastic and metal in it. The bottle can, but not the head. So that's another kind of common mistake. When we've done the audits of recycling bins, it's a lot better than the landfill bins, but still a fair bit of contamination in there, so 16%. And so we'd love to get that down, you know, as low as possible. So it goes to Green Triangle Recyclers, as I mentioned. They're sorted out by these large machines and by hand, and they sort it out into the different kinds of material that it is. So, you know, cardboard all goes together, newspaper, all the different kinds of plastics, aluminium. So the cube that you see there is probably thousands of aluminium cans all squashed together by the baling machine that they've got there. And that gets sent off and then melted down and turned into new aluminium products. Some examples of specifically where things go. So plastics, number 2 plastics, which is the things like milk bottles and the like, they actually get sent to a place in Victoria that turns them into agricultural pipes. So that's where your milk bottles go to. Things like newspapers actually get sent to Adelaide and get turned into kitty litter. So, you know, and then that's kitty litter that is biodegradable, so that could go into compost as well. Why should we recycle? Well, here are just some examples. So recycling plastic requires only 10% of the energy needed to create new plastic from raw materials, from oil. Recycling a ton of paper can save 17 trees. Recycling glass saves 30% the energy of producing new glass. Obviously, if you reuse a glass bottle or jar, then it uses almost no energy. So the organics or green waste bin. So up until, well, at the moment, it's still optional. So about half the households in Mount Gambier have it, just over half. But from the 1st of July, that's going to be a free service for anyone in Mount Gambier who wants it. So residential properties. But you need to have a bin. So a lot of people, obviously those 50% of people who already use it already got a bin. People who will now want this service who haven't been using it, you just have to get a bin, which is a once-off payment of about $85. And then you'll have that service for free, just like your rubbish and your recycling. So organics includes anything that was recently alive. So all kinds of plants, all kinds of food waste, even bones, shells, meat, dairy, you can put all that in your organics bin. And it goes out to Fanshake's Biogrow at Wandillo, and then they turn it into compost. So our organics has been pretty good, and I'm going to show you the audit results in a moment. But one common mistake is to use plastic bags for collecting your food waste, for example, instead of compostable bags. So when we've done the audits of the organics bin, the results have been excellent. So anyone who's got an organics bin, thank you very much for using it well, and we hope you we want to encourage people to keep up the good work, and particularly as we make it more widely available to everyone, we want to keep, hopefully everyone will keep in mind of just reducing that contamination, keeping that down, and not putting anything into the organics bin that shouldn't go in there. If you do get an organics bin, you're eligible to get a kitchen caddy. That's one of these kind of little bucket things with your organic service. And that's basically to keep it in the kitchen, and you line it with a compostable bag and you put all your food waste in it. So all kinds of food waste, including meat, dairy, bones, all that sort of stuff, obviously fruit and veg, that kind of thing. It's important to only use compostable bags, and I'm going to talk about what compostable means versus biodegradable or degradable a little bit later. When organics are buried in landfill, not only do they fill it up quicker than it needs to be, so wasting resources, but it also can create leachate and methane, which have the potential to pollute the environment. And you can turn that into compost and use it again in gardens and farms. So it's just a waste putting into a rubbish bin. So it goes out to Venshakes Biogrow out at Wandillo. They have a very large composting facility out there, and they take all kinds of forest residue and things like that. So they mix in the contents of the organics bins with that, and they turn it into a high quality compost and potting mix kind of products. You can also compost at home, obviously, with your organics. You don't have to get the organics service. You can do it at home. So that can be as easy as complicated as you like. And if you go to the City of Mount Gambier YouTube channel, I did a webinar on composting a few weeks ago, so that's on there as well. And we may even repeat that. If you are interested in home composting, you can get half-price composting gear from the Compost Revolution, which Council has partnered with. You can get these kind of equipment, tumblers, compost bins, worm farms, etc. And you go to this website, compostrevolution.com.au/Mount Gambier, and then you can get your discount on there. So you might have heard these terms: degradable, biodegradable, compostable. Sometimes they're a bit confusing. What do they mean? You hear biodegradable and you think, well, that must be good. It's biodegradable, got bio in it. Well, here's what these words actually mean. So degradable, sometimes you'll see plastic bags and got degradable written on it, like that example in the bottom there, 100% degradable. That just means it breaks down into little bits of plastic. So that's not really a good thing. That just makes the plastic spread further and further into the environment. So degradable just means a plastic bag that's just going to break down into little bits of plastic. Biodegradable is basically the same thing, and there's not really a standard about using that term. So sometimes that bag could be made from a plant-based material, which is a good thing, but other times it's made from an oil-based plastic, and they don't necessarily break down into soil anyway, even if it is a plant-based plastic. So I'd avoid that as well. So particularly in terms of your kitchen caddies, you really want to look for compostable. So it has to say compostable on it somewhere, or have these little images, that seedling image or the compost bin image, which means it's certified compostable, and that will break down back into soil just like a banana peel would. Takeaway cups. So there's been quite a bit of confusion about takeaway cups, and if you watch the War on Waste, they did a whole lot on takeaway cups. Now this information here is based on what we can do here in Mount Gambier. So the question with recycling is not can it be recycled, but can it be recycled in Mount Gambier? Because different parts of Australia have different recycling facilities and they'll take different things. So here in Mount Gambier, you can recycle your takeaway cups. So if they're a paper cardboard one, they can go into the recycling bin. If it says compostable on it, so you will get some cafes in town sell compostable takeaway cups, then they can go in your organics bin. They could also go in your recycle bin as well. They'll take it at the recycling centre too. Now with the lid, if it's a plastic lid, then it has to go into the rubbish bin. So typically it will have like a number 6 on it, like a little triangle and a number 6. If you see that, that's definitely plastic, and you put it in the rubbish bin. If it says compostable on it, then it can go into your organics bin, but it has to say compostable. So don't assume it's compostable. If you see that written on there somewhere, then you can put it in the organics bin. Pizza boxes. What do you do with those? Well, if they're relatively clean, like the one you can see there that's relatively clean, you can put that in your recycle bin because that's cardboard. It goes in there, it'll get recycled. If it's got food caked on it and you can't get it off, that one there, you probably could just take that little bit of cardboard lining in there. But if it's got food caked on it, don't put it in your recycle bin, but you can put it in your organics bin. Because cardboard, obviously that was made from trees, that's plant-based, that will break down back into soil, particularly in a commercial composting system like they have at BioGrow. So one with food on it can go in your organic bin. Alternatively, if you don't have an organic bin in that example there, you could rip off the lid. The lid could go into your recycle bin, and then the bottom would go into your rubbish bin if you don't have an organic bin. Do you have to remove bottle lids? So that's often, there's a lot of confusion about that too, and it is confusing. Well, in Mount Gambier, you do have to, because the lids are often made of a different kind of plastic to the bottles. So they actually, they're a source of contamination. And also removing the lids makes it more viable for the recycling industry because it reduces the cost. So at the recycling centre, they have to take the lids off anyway because it is a contaminant. And so the more that we can do on our end to make our recycling, all sorted well and not have contamination, means it costs less money to process it, which makes it more viable. And since you probably heard of China Sword back at the end of 2018, basically that made recycling more expensive to do. So the more that we can do our bit at home, in the kitchen to sort our recycling, the more viable it makes the whole recycling industry. You could do, now the image I've got there of the milk bottles are made from number 2 plastics, HDPE, as I mentioned before. And you can see on the lid there underneath, it's got the little triangle and it says number 2. So that's the same type of plastic that the milk bottle's made out of. So you could get a milk bottle, stuff all your lids into it, and then put another lid on and put that in your recycle bin, and then that could get recycled. The reason you don't leave your lids on, say with like a milk bottle, you say, well, no, just leave the lid on. We need to rinse it out for a couple of reasons. One, you have to rinse it out because otherwise they stink when they've just been sitting there for a while. Milk bottle, if anyone smells a milk bottle that hasn't been rinsed, it really stinks after a while. But if you just put the lid back on too, when it goes through the recycling process, it will get squashed and the lid will pop off, and then it will just end up as contamination, end up in landfill. Now, with bottle lids also, up until just recently, say just before COVID, UniSA were taking them out on Wireless Road, and they were giving them to the Envision project, which used them, the lids, to turn into artificial limbs for children in developing countries who, say, might be missing a hand or something like that. That program, I think, just got absolutely swamped with lids because so many people wanted to recycle their lids that they've actually stopped taking them for the time being because they've got so many. So there's a temporary pause on that at the moment. It may start up again in the future, but at the moment, UniSA aren't taking the lids anymore. So the milk bottle option is the only option at the moment. What else can you recycle apart from what you can put in your recycling bin? Well, domestic batteries, so your little AA, AAA batteries, you can take them to the library here in the centre of town, and also can take them to the waste transfer station out on Eucalypt Drive, where we collect them and then we send them off to Melbourne and they get recycled. They get taken apart into all the different kinds of metal and then turned into new products. You can also take mobile phones to the library, and lots of other places that sell mobile phones take mobile phones to get recycled as well. You can take light globes and fluoro tubes to Bannermitre 10 for free, or to the transfer station as well. That little photo in the bottom corner there is of one of the self-checkout stations at the library, and that's where the battery recycling bins and the phone recycling bins are. REDCycle. Hopefully you've heard of REDCycle, but if not, it's a program where you can recycle plastic bags and other kinds of soft plastics. So you can't put those into your recycle bin because the processing systems that they have at the local sorting centre and at most recycling sorting centres aren't set up for soft plastics because they're so lightweight. They sort of blow around, they get moved around by the machines, get caught in things. So you can't recycle those in your recycling bin, but you can take them to Coles and Woolworths here in Mount Gambier, and they will get recycled. So they take almost any kinds of soft plastics, including all those ones you see on the screen there, plastic bags, even the foil-lined chip packets, chocolate bar wrappers, muesli bar wrappers, all that kind of stuff. They don't take cling wrap or sticky tape. These are the bins. So the one, this kind of square one there, rectangle one, is the bin at Woolworths. So you see that, you can put all your plastic bags in there. Typically what people do is they have a plastic bag in the kitchen somewhere and then they just throw all their soft plastics in that. When it's full, they go do their shopping, they take the bag, throw it into one of these bins, and it gets sent off and gets recycled. The round one there is like what they have at Coles. So round one Coles, square one Woolworths. And they get turned into things like timber replacements, picnic tables, wicking boxes, things like that. So this bus shelter here, obviously in James Street, the stuff there that looks like timber is actually recycled plastic. So that's used to be plastic bags and things like that. So, we try and use it in what council does, but also there are companies there who sell all sorts of things made out of recycled plastic. We've got some of the newer picnic tables around town are also made from recycled plastic, from plastic bags and things like that. So it's a great thing to do. Also, if you start collecting your soft plastics, you'll see that it will significantly reduce what's in your rubbish bin as well, as long with not putting your food waste in there. I think the word's getting out now that you can recycle polystyrene boxes and things like that out at the waste transfer station. So a little while back, we bought that kind of light brown machine there. Doesn't look very glamorous, but what it does is actually shreds up the polystyrene boxes. It melts them down and reduces the volume by about 90 times. Obviously, polystyrene's 98% air. It's like plastic with just air blown into it. Costs a lot to transport air around to get recycled. So what this does, takes all the air out, melts it down, makes kind of these solid bricks, which we then can send off, gets recycled, gets turned into things like picture frames and skirting boards and things like that. So it takes all the expanded kind of polystyrene. So that is the white foam boxes that you would be familiar with. It doesn't take meat trays because that's a slightly different kind of polystyrene. We ask people to remove their stickers, sticky tape, anything like that on the boxes, and it can't be dirty or wet either because the machine won't take it. And that's a free service too. So you can take your polystyrene boxes out to the transfer station for free and we'll recycle them. Another program I recommend people go have a look at is TerraCycle. So it's that website there, www.terracycle.com.au. And there's a whole bunch of free recycling programs on there for unconventional recyclables. So things that you can't put into your recycle bin, like toothbrushes, toothpaste, bread tags, things like that. You can't put them in your recycle bin because the local centre doesn't take them because they're tricky to recycle. So what happens is you have a box at home, you sign up for, say, the oral care one, throw in your old toothbrushes, toothpaste tubes, things like that. When it's full, you send it off and then TerraCycle recycle it. And the reason they can do that is because the companies who make these products pay for the recycling. So Colgate do it as part of their kind of sustainability component of their business. They pay for their products to get recycled at the end of life. The reuse market. Hopefully you've heard of the reuse market. Like almost everything, it's sort of been on hold during the whole COVID thing, but we're looking at opening it up relatively soon, hopefully in August. So if you haven't been there, haven't heard of it, it's like a tip shop salvage yard kind of thing. We sell almost anything and everything secondhand. We don't sell clothes really, but you can get all sorts of other things there: building materials, bikes, furniture, electrical items, garden equipment, you name it. It's located at 3 Eucalypt Drive, which is next door to the waste transfer station and also next door to Green Triangle Recyclers. It's right in the middle of those two, where the old salvage yard was. People who know the old salvage yard used to be there many years ago. If you want to donate items to the reuse market, you've got something secondhand that's in reasonable condition, then you do it at the transfer station. So take it to the transfer station. Anything we sell through the reuse market will be free. So if you've got good quality chairs, whatever it might be, take it there, we'll take it for free and then sell it at the reuse market. So it is, if you haven't been there, I highly recommend you go when we do reopen. It's quite a well-presented site. A lot of these sites can be a bit junky, they're not that appealing, but I think they do an excellent job at the reuse market. It's really appealing to go to. They lay everything out well, they clean everything, and it also is very cheap. So, it's probably the only place in town you can go to with loose change in your pocket and come out with a handful of items. They do a great job, so I highly recommend you go there when it reopens. So keep an eye on the council website and Facebook page for that. Reuse Market also has a Facebook page to see when it's open again. So if you do have a recycling question, the first stop I recommend is the What to Recycle Where booklet. So that looks like that on the screen there. You can get to it on the council website. We've got hard copies in the council offices, but you can just access it straight away on the website. Go to the council website, mountgambier.sa.gov.au, sustainability pages, waste and recycling educational. And then it's got a whole list of things that you might throw out and what you do with it. So whether you put it in your recycle bin or not, or whether you have to take it to somewhere else, or if it can't be recycled. So always remember the question is not can it be recycled, but can it be recycled in Mount Gambier? If something's not on the list, then contact council and we'll get back to you and let you know what to do with it. On that same page where the What to Recycle Where booklet is, there's also some videos about waste and recycling. So an audit, very short audit, and some videos on the landfill and BioGrow and the recycling centre as well. I do tours of our waste sites, of the landfill, the reuse market and the transfer station. So a lot for school groups, community groups, and also the general public. If you're interested in that, get in touch, because we're obviously not doing them at the moment, but after COVID and things settle down, we'll start doing those tours again. And so if you are interested, if you're part of a community group or just the general public, then get in touch and we can, I think people learn a lot, and there's sort of, when you see where your waste goes, it sort of makes things a bit more real, and you also get the smell from the methane, which comes from all the food waste and organics that is in the landfill. So it just sort of, helps you to visualize what happens to your waste. So in summary, recycling is a lot better than landfill. Reusing is even better than recycling. We create mountains of rubbish most of it's just through one little item at a time. So most of what goes to Mount Gambier's landfill is actually domestic waste. It's not business waste. And so that's all of us just putting stuff in our rubbish bins. There are lots of things you can recycle, and recycling and reusing, it does make a difference. If you collect your soft plastics, take them to REDCycle. If you don't put food waste in your rubbish bin, you don't put anything recyclable in your rubbish bin, you find that you really don't have much rubbish left over at all, and you'll hardly have to put your bin out, maybe once a month. But thank you very much for joining in. I will just about to answer any questions that might be there. This is getting recorded, so if you can refer back to it if you want to. And that's the website there again. And if you do have any ideas for future webinars too, let me know in the Q&A. I've done some on composting, wicking boxes, veggie gardening, and now one on recycling. But happy to do them on any kind of sustainability topic, or if you want to see the wicking boxes again or composting again, happy to do that too. So I'm just having a look at the questions now. Someone said recycle household batteries through the Clare Lions Club. So I guess that's not in Mount Gambier. Receptacles in various shops where the public can drop them off while shopping. Yeah, I think glasses you can take to some places that sell glasses. Also hearing aids you can take to the places that sell hearing aids, and generally they'll send them off to get recycled. Question here, where can we recycle fluorescent tubes and compact tubes? So you can recycle them at Bannermitre 10 for free, but also at the waste transfer station. So any kind of light glow, but particularly the fluoro tubes and compact fluoro tubes, you can recycle at the transfer station. Question here, can used straw from animals go in green waste? Yep, definitely. So you can put, in your organics bin, you can put all your dog waste as well. That can all go in there because it all, it goes into such a huge process out at BioGrow and gets mixed in with all their other things that it really just disappears. Clay kitty litter, I'm not really familiar with that. I don't have cats, so I'm not sure what that is, but if it's plant-based, so clay doesn't really sound plant-based, does it? So I guess probably not clay kitty litter, but that other kitty litter I've shown on there that's made from newspaper, you could put that in there. Question, will the other councils bring in the green bin such like what Mount Gambier is doing? Well, you have to ask them really. So I can only talk for Mount Gambier, and we've got it and we're expanding it on 1st of July. Another one, where can I get a caddy and bags for the kitchen? Well, if you don't have an organics, if you have an organics bin, you could have got one already, and if you don't have one, come and get one. If you get the organic service, say from 1st of July, you'll get a caddy with the compostable bags with it as well. You can buy the caddies online. Also, you can buy them from hardware stores, sell them. The bags you can get from hardware stores, but also from supermarkets. So both Coles and Woolworths and IGA, they'll sell the compostable bags too. And hardware stores sell the compostable bags. About the plastic lids. So if you didn't, most plastic lids, I should have also mentioned too, they're either number 2 or number 4. So number 2 is the same as plastic milk bottles. Number 4 is not, obviously. And so they would, at the moment, unfortunately, they would go in the rubbish bin. So if you didn't put them in a milk bottle, the number 2 lids, they would go in the rubbish bin. Number 4 lids have to go in the rubbish bin at the moment, unfortunately. Where does shredded paper go? So shredded paper is a good question. You can actually put that in your organics bin too. So, obviously paper used to it is plant-based, usually made from trees, so that can go in your green waste, your green organics bin. Otherwise, you could possibly put it in a cardboard box and put it in your recycling, but generally, if you've got the organics bin, I'd recommend you put it in your organics bin. Cooking oils and fat. Depends how much you've got. If you've only got a very small amount, like just from a domestic kitchen, you could probably soak that up with some paper towel or something, and then you could put that in your organics bin. If you've got larger quantities, you can actually take cooking oils and fat out to the transfer station, and we'll take it there for a small fee, and then that will actually then get composted. So obviously, if you've got a large amount of oil, you have to treat it in a certain way, and they'll do that out at the composting site. So large amounts to the transfer station, just tiny, small amounts, kitchen amounts, soak up in some paper towel or something else that will soak it up and put it in your organics bin. Can you put wet boxes in the blue recycle bin? Yeah, you could. You could. Best if you try not to get them wet though, because, and if I wouldn't put a lot, like say I wouldn't fill up your recycle bin with wet boxes, but if you've just got a wet box and you put it in with your other dry recyclables, that would be okay. There was a question here about, I did one on wicking boxes as well. Was it recorded? Yes, the webinar about wicking boxes was recorded, so it should be on the City of Mount Gambier YouTube channel if you go on there. Can I wrap vegetable scraps in newspaper and throw in green waste bin? Yep, you can definitely do that. So you don't have to use a compostable bag. You can definitely just wrap them in newspaper or the like and put them in your green waste bin. That's fine, because newspaper's paper-based. That will turn back into soil. If an item has a number inside a triangle, can it be placed in the blue bin? Yeah, that's a good question. In Mount Gambier, only numbers 1 to 5 can be put in your blue recycling bin. So numbers 6 and 7 you can't, only numbers 1 to 5. Where can I recycle old x-rays? Another good question. You can actually bring them into the Mount Gambier Library and we collect them there. The staff will take them off you and put them in a bin out the back, and then someone comes and takes that away and recycles your old x-rays. So you can do that at the library. Are the dog poo bags compostable? Only if they say compostable on them. So most dog poo bags are not, and if you're referring to the ones around town, the black ones that the council provides, they are not. They are just ordinary plastic. I think we have tried some compostable ones in the past, but they kept sort of tearing. They weren't very strong. And so probably we could try some different brands in the future. But at the moment, those black ones that you get around town, they are not compostable. They're just plastic, unfortunately. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining in. If you do have any further questions as we go along, then you can email us at city@mountgambier.sa.gov.au. If you have any ideas for future webinars, please let us know. But otherwise, I hope you have a good evening, and thank you for tuning in.